Beautiful Woman by Chief Yellow Mustard. Welcome to the Coonround Report. May the peace and blessings of the life-giving creative spirit be upon you and upon your family. My name is Melvin Ishmael Johnson, coming at you live from Skidrow Studios, and I'm in the studio with my co-host Earlene Anthony. Our call-in number is 1-800-893-9562. Now, this week on the Coonround Report, we will talk to some voices from the community with two special sections of the Coonround Report. First up, I will be talking to Irene Cruz and Teresa Thompson for about 20 minutes about their upcoming show here at Skidrow Studios entitled The Veterans Advocates Connection. And then, after our community calendar, we will spend the rest of our show with Pastor Brian Eklund of New City Parish, who brought 10 students from New York University, NYU, here to visit Los Angeles and Skidrow Studios. Let's turn it over to Irene Cruz and Teresa Thompson for Veteran Advocacy Connection.
Thank you, Melvin. It's a pleasure to be here. We're the Veterans Advocacy Connection. My name is Irene Cruz. I'm a 6-year Marine Corps veteran, along with my co-host, Teresa Thompson.
And I'm an Air Force veteran of 4 years and enjoy doing this, working with veterans.
So today, we're going to talk about education with pertaining to veterans, and we have a guest in the studio. Her name is Lisa Porter. She is with New Horizons Computer Learning Center, and they have a program particularly for veterans who want retraining in computer with computer classes, particularly if you're already in the computer field or if you would like to venture into the world of technology. And I'm proud to say I am a recipient of one of their, there's a grant right now for women veterans who would like to pursue opportunities in the technology field. And again, like I said, I'm proud to say that I'm one of the recipients of that grant. So I will introduce Lisa Porter, or let you introduce yourself.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here on your show with Irene and Teresa. I am the education counselor for New Horizons Computer Learning Center. I actually am in the Culver City campus. I'm from the Culver City campus. Actually, we have 5 campuses here in Southern California. We have our corporate office in Anaheim. We have San Bernardino, San Diego, Culver City, and Burbank. New Horizons has been around for 30 years, and New Horizons has an exceptional program for our veterans here, especially in Southern California and worldwide. But in Southern California, there's things that New Horizons can do that they cannot seem to do on other parts of the country. Excuse me. We actually train. Can you hear me? We have quite a few relationships with funding houses that can fund many of our veterans. We have veterans who are transitioning from the military into the civilian life, and sometimes that can be a little bit difficult. What we do offer is the actual training for IT. So basically, someone can come out of the military and sit here and say, what am I going to do living in the civilian life? Well, when you meet with one of our counselors, we actually sit with you, listen to what it is that you have done, and see how you want to transition into IT. We have the DoD 8750. That's your basic A+, Network Plus, Security Plus program with certifications. Many of our veterans, when you want an IT job out there, and that's for everyone across the board, where there is a hiccup or a stumble is someone lacks certification. The certification that either comes from CompTIA, Microsoft, Adobe, Cisco, That is a competency-based exam that actually says, hey, I know what I'm doing. No one's going to ask you what it is that you know how to do, because that number that you receive from either Cisco or Microsoft and the like will say you do know what you're doing. Now, if I can just sort of loop around back, excuse me, loop around back, so when we first began at the top here, when we were talking about veteran programs, a lot of our veteran programs differ depending on the individual. Now, when we talk about how people can get funded, we have different relationships. As Irene mentioned, there's a veteran women's program that sits there and says, if you're a veteran woman and you need any type of training, we have relationships with the companies and the funding houses that can sit here and say, you need to become a project manager. We can send you to New Horizons. We can get you the training to become a project manager. If you want to get your certifications in technology where you're a tech person dealing with servers, dealing with security, certified ethical hacking, you have different things that you can learn. We can provide that for you. So basically, if you take our company that was devised 30 years ago, and it was actually in someone's garage, and their first training was Excel. 30 years later, we are still a true American company. We have things that we do in the Southern California division that are not done anywhere else here domestically. We actually have a actual program. It's a MCSE, Microsoft Certified Solutions Expert Program, called Salute to Troops, and it's a surface salute to troops, where our veterans who enroll in that program, when they complete that program, they're actually getting a Surface Pro from Microsoft that no one else is able to do. And we're very humble that we're able to provide that for our veterans here in Southern California. And along with that, it actually comes not only with the actual machine, but it comes with your exam preps, with your exam vouchers. So when you're leaving New Horizons, you're going to be certified, and indefinitely for a lifetime, you have access to our placement specialist. Our placement specialist actually says, hey, you're a veteran, you've gone through our program, you've completed this, you need some assistance getting a job. We're going to write the letters of recommendation because we know who we're sitting here and we're recommending to our employers. We actually train Southern California. So if you're looking at counties, cities, you're looking at the state, you're looking at companies like DirecTV, Fox, Warner Brothers. We are training these people. We don't advertise it, but we sit here and take care of everyone. Our veterans, on point. Our other students who are non-veterans, on point. They are taken care of all of the time.
Well, you know, working with the VRC, how you doing, Lisa?
Hi, how are you?
It was so interesting. I had just gotten a flyer for your class, for your certification. And I had looked at it, and I have one guy in mind that I'm working with, one of the veterans I'm working with. And so when Irene emailed me, she was talking about, oh, well, I have someone that can talk about the IT and the training at New Horizons. And I said, wow, isn't that interesting? I just found a flyer on that was given to me regarding that, and I had somebody I was going to call about getting certified. And now, dealing with veterans, with my job with the Veterans Resource Corps, and one of the largest things is housing and employment. Mm-hmm. And I've only had one guy in the past year and a half almost that was interested in the IT field. What can we do to get veterans interested in it?
Well, IT is very vast, and that's a very good question. Thank you. IT stems from your basic Microsoft Office application. Someone has to learn how, the way someone gets a job has changed and shifted dramatically. Gone are the days when you can walk in and say, you know what, I've been doing this for 12, 13 years. Now, employers are very, very smart. They want to know, are you certified? Do you have a certificate of completion that says at least you've been exposed to refine the different skills that you have? Mm-hmm. It's not going to doubt someone. So you actually have to go in someplace and say, you know what, I'm a Microsoft Office specialist. I may have a certification in Excel. They want to know, can you sit here and teach everyone in the actual office how to do this? Mm-hmm. They want to make sure someone is competent. So when you're looking at IT again, excuse me, you're looking at Microsoft Office applications, you're looking at how to look at a hardware, how to look and connect a server, local area network, wide area network. You're looking at security. Security can be Cisco. Security can be CompTIA. Security can be something in Microsoft. It just depends. Certified ethical hacking, you have certified forensic hacking investigators, CISSP. These are very important different security things and jobs that are available for our veterans. Those are high-end. When I say high-end, those are very advanced technical positions, but they still require the certification because someone works in a bubble. Someone can sit there and say, I was on a Navy ship, for example, and this is what I did. So we're basically going to listen to you to say, okay, if you did this, we can turn around and say we can start here and build. Some people want to go into tech. Some people want to go into applications. It's all IT.
Okay.
So, Lisa, once a veteran enters your program, completes the training, and is certified, does your company offer anything else beyond that?
Absolutely. For a lifetime, indefinitely. Our veterans and anyone who completes our training programs is eligible to look at our website. We have a job portal. They ask for the access. You can tell when you went to school, and you can always see the positions that are available. And you can actually access, after you've accessed the actual web portal, you can contact our placement specialist, and she will actually prepare your letter of recommendation. There's going to be something that someone sees when they're looking at the web portal. And the portal's going to say, maybe this is just a position for a certified ethical hacker. Let's use that position. Maybe there's something in that description that someone else can use. Maybe there's going to be something in someone's tenure where they can look at something and say, you know what, I can do this. I can maybe do the certified ethical hacking and maybe some of the IT management. There's IT Project Plus, there's IT different project managements. There's a lot of different positions that are available. And we've been very helpful to be able to say that we have placed people. If you do contact the BPPE, which is the Bureau of Post-Private Education, we actually list all of the placements that we have, and we have to do that by law.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. With that being said, I will make sure I contact you. Can you give our listeners your contact information, or if you want them to go through us, then we will connect them with you?
They can actually go through you, or you can contact me directly. My direct line is 310-342-3529. My email address is my initial L, my last name PORTER @nhsocal.com. Or you can visit our website, www.nhsocal.com.
Thank you, Lisa. And if you'd like to contact us and are interested in computer classes with the New Horizons, you can reach us through email at veteransadvocacyconnection@gmail.com. Again, that's veteransadvocacyconnection@gmail.com. Or you can like us on Facebook as well as send us a message. And on Facebook, look for the Veterans Advocacy Connection. And with that, we will turn it back over to, no?
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
You know, the pay in IT is real good. I just had a veteran. He was hired probably about 6 months ago at one of the colleges, local colleges right down the street. And he started off at $14 an hour.
The pay in IT is very, very nice. I was actually looking at a couple of positions, IT manager positions, if I can mention it because it's out there. City of Vernon, for example, has a listing for an IT manager. Now, many of my veterans who come in, they actually have gone and received and attained their bachelor's in computer science. The hiccup is they're lacking a certification that says, I know how to do this. I may know theory. Some of my veterans have their master's in computer science. So I'm looking at this position here, and it's starting at $126,000. That's a low end. Top end is $158,000. Now, when you come in, they want to be able to say, okay, we know you know theory, and I'm not the expert, but I'm giving just you the lay of the land. We know you know something. Now we want to really know what you know. Do you have a certification that says, I have some hands-on experience? So that's where we're missing the ball.
Okay.
And if I can just quickly say, veterans, you can use your post 9/11. We have VA Voc Rehab, vocational rehab. I have the partners that can get you funded. But, you got to come talk to us.
So we need to push that certification.
You really need to push the certification.
Because some things are all about what you know, but some things are
About what you can do.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So with that, we will turn it back over to the Qumran Report with our host, Melvin Johnson.
Okay, thank you, Irene Cruz and Teresa Thompson, Veterans Advocacy Connection. Beautiful information, and sure we're going to follow up on that. Let's take a break for our community calendar, and then we'll come back with Pastor Brian Eklund and students from New York University.
This is the community calendar for upcoming events. This Wednesday, March the 18th, 2015, at 7 p.m., the doors will open at 6 p.m. This is a special event, a documentary screening of a film entitled Ground Operation, Battlefield to Farm Field. This film is about military veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan learning to farm and raise their own organic food. The location of the documentary film showing will be the Vortex, 2341 East Olympic Boulevard, Los Angeles, California, 921, and this is located at the corner of Olympic and Santa Fe. This is a free event. All are invited to attend. Light refreshments will be served. There will be a time for Q&A and a discussion with Edgar Hercelis, a farm veteran, Nadia McCaffrey, Gold Star mom, and Dulaney Ellis. She's the filmmaker. For more information about the screening of this documentary, please contact 213-479-1764. This Thursday, March the 26th, 2015 at 6 p.m., Drama Stage Qumran will do a performance of a stage play entitled Nailheads. This play is about the 80 to 100,000 homeless people living on the streets of Los Angeles at any given time. This is a free event. Dinner will be served and all are invited to attend. The location of the performance will be the St. Mark's Church, 3651 South Vermont Avenue, Los Angeles, California, 9007. And please, for more information, contact information is 213-479-1764. If you have a community event that you would like announced on our show, please send the information to dramastage1@yahoo.com. Attention, Earlene Anthony. And the call-in number for our show while we're broadcasting live is 800-893-9562. Now, back to our hosts.
Okay, thank you, Miss Earlene Anthony. Now, at this time, I'd like to welcome Pastor Brian Eklund of New City Parish and some students from NYU, New York University. Welcome to the Qumran Report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look, let's start off. Let's go around the table and make introductions. Students, can you give your name, your hometown, and what you major in at NYU?
Hi, thanks for having us. My name is John. I'm in the junior in the College of Arts and Sciences on the pre-med track, majoring in philosophy. And I'm born and raised Brooklynite.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm studying applied psychology at NYU.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm studying public health and biology.
Hi, my name is Devin. I'm studying philosophy on the pre-law track at NYU.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I am studying neuroscience on the pre-med track at NYU. I'm from Michigan.
Hi, I'm Shin, and I'm studying history, and I'm from Queens, New York.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm from the Bronx. I go to NYU and I study psychology.
Hi, my name is Nia. I'm a born and raised Brooklynite, and I'm at NYU creating an interdisciplinary major, so I basically created my own major.
Hi, I'm Suan. I'm from Hong Kong. I'm a sophomore at NYU studying economics.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm from Queens, New York, and I'm at NYU studying social work.
Hey, you want to say hello to you?
In Cantonese.
Yeah.
阿爸阿媽，你聽唔聽到我講咩啊？
That's beautiful. Okay, now I would like to play a little short 2-minute clip of Pastor Brian telling us about New City Parish.
Sure. New City Parish was formed in 1992 as a result of the civil unrest that happened in April. A few days later, a group of us pastors got together and said, my, what are we going to do? We can't keep working in our churches alone, like the Lone Ranger, anymore. We have to find ways to work together and do more to serve and to help our communities. As a result of that outreach, we've been throughout these now 8 parishes spread from Compton to Pico Union through Inglewood. We have literally fed, I think, 1 million people or more, served baskets of food, helped in the training of health promoters and other civic leaders, and as well as provided some economic development, helping people to move towards the job market. And this particular aspect of our program is really about trying to bring cultures and people together across the various lines that so many times separate us. We ourselves were from African descent churches, African American, Malaysian, African, Latino, and we felt the need to bring our people together so that they were not separate. Martin Luther King Jr. has said that the most segregated hour in America is Sunday morning. And it was really our goal to break that down and say, let's work together. So this program is one aspect of that, where we bring folks who are from outside of the city many times, and sometimes from right in the city. In a couple of weeks, we have students from UCLA coming in to be a part of this as well. To experience another side of life. Our students this time, for instance, are living with Spanish-speaking families and getting to know really our community in depth, and learning through language, learning the various cultures that are around us. So this is a piece of us doing what Rodney King said in that wonderful statement, why can't we all just get along?
All right, that's Pastor Brian Ackland. Pastor Brian, can you talk about this particular program at New City Parish?
Yeah, this is a different one from our seminary program, and we're happy to welcome students who make some different choices at spring break time. The traditional places for spring break in California are probably to go down to Baja California maybe, or to Lake Havasu, and I guess for the New York folks, from the East Coast folks, to go on down to Fort Lauderdale and party for the weekend or for a long week. Here we have university students that make another choice. They decide to experience another part of life, and in this case, to come into the urban core of Los Angeles and see what the other Los Angeles looks like, and experience what our city is really all about. This particular group from NYU is always so exciting. This is the 3rd year we've had a group from the university, and each time it's just this incredibly multicultural group that has these creative and wonderful ideas about life and how they can make a difference in the world. So we're excited to welcome them here. They're studying specifically how youth can be helped to avoid the gang life, and how they can find other directions for their lives, and a bit more depth about the criminal justice system. So we're doing a lot of experiential learning.
Okay, wonderful. That's what I want to talk about now. Is it any areas in New York that's comparable to Skidrow, where there's a lot of homeless?
Hi, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, so I've spent a lot of time in New York, and there's no place in New York that's comparable to Skid Row just because we don't have a main street or a main place where homelessness is, where homeless people stay, and it's very, very dense in the population of homeless persons. But you see homeless people all throughout the city, so we have them, it's just more scattered.
Now, what are your thoughts? I'd like to get some thoughts from you. What are your thoughts on the homeless problem in areas like Skidrow?
Actually, on our way here, I was just in awe with the amount of people we saw on the side of the roads because, like Nia said, we don't really see any areas like this from where I'm from in Brooklyn. There are homeless people we see occasionally, like in the subway system, and in various areas in the streets, you know, asking for money, but nothing like we've seen in Skid Row. I was just like brokenhearted, actually, to see so many people like that.
Yeah, it was the same for me. It was just really eye-opening. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like that. And it just shows that it's a real problem and needs to be dealt with, and things like that just shouldn't exist.
And like my peers, I've also am in awe at the amount of homelessness and how rampant it is, especially in Skid Row. And it's such a multifaceted issue. I feel like there's no one way to deal with it. And especially in New York, where it's not as dense, it's still at, I would say, just as rampant. Not as rampant, but similarly a big issue.
Well, you're from Michigan, right?
Yeah, I am. So growing up, I never experienced a whole lot of homelessness. I didn't see it often until I came to New York, and I was shocked then seeing just a few on the subway. So then to drive through Skid Row tonight and just get a glimpse of how bad it can be, it was very eye-opening and it was a new experience. And I really have never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it felt like something like out of a post-apocalyptic world. Like I felt like I was like in some weird movie. Like,
And I was going to ask you, how far are you from Detroit?
I'm like 3 or 4 hours away, so I don't make it out there much, unfortunately.
Okay, what are your thoughts on what you saw with Skid Row and the homeless?
Like everyone else, I was very surprised, and it seems that there's a very like there seems to be a community of homeless people like all together in tents and just like very like Hooverville-esque kind of that setting. And like everyone said, in New York we don't have that. Like yes, around my dorms and stuff I'll see homeless people, but they're all very scattered. There's not a community of them that are just like around anywhere, so it was very different to see.
For me, I just thought that the disparity between the rich and the poor was much more obvious here than in New York. Like in New York, you see a couple people with like camping out with all their stuff like once every few blocks. But here it was just like a group of people with tents and all their belongings, like 10 in one block or more. And it was, like everyone said, really eye-opening for me.
It's very interesting to me because my parents used to tell me that homeless people, it's because they didn't work hard when they were young. But I feel that actually in New York, I'm like, what I have seen is pretty different from what my peers had just said, because I lived in Chinatown in New York, and there's this place called Bowery Mission, and it's where homeless people just come together. And so I've seen those situations before, because especially I've done community service for them. And just now, like writing in something, it's very similar to what I've seen in New York. And so now I wonder, like what my parents told me, that how like when people don't work hard, then they will like become homeless. Whether this theory is really true, or is there like a social problem underlying our system that we probably have to find out. I just thought it was like really surprising to see everything because I was born and raised in New York for a majority of my life, and really you don't see a lot of homeless people clustered together. And it was just really shocking because now you can see the other reality of how extreme it can really be. And I feel like it's a big issue, a social justice issue that we all need to tackle, like every state.
And then one of the elephants in the room, always about the homeless problem here, is the fact that African Americans make up probably about 11% of the population of Los Angeles, but the people living in the tents down there on the Skid Row is probably 90% African American. Any thoughts on that? Any sociology students, political science, anything like that?
I'm not that's not my major. But yeah, that was okay. So I identify as Black American. So driving through Skid Row, that was definitely something that I noticed and was extremely shocking. And it's so obvious, you know. So if we talk about like this being an issue, and you can just drive through and see like there's a specific race and gender of people who are the majority of the people affected, you know that it's by design. Like there's something happening that's making it be that way, and that was definitely shocking, especially for me because it's part of my identity. So, yeah,
and a lot of veterans also that are homeless up on Skid Row. Anybody else want to comment on that? Let me ask this. Go ahead. Anybody else want to say anything?
I was just going to say that I think it's also a similar issue to in New York as well. I think that African Americans make up a large population of the homeless there too. So it's not just in LA. I think that this is like a nationwide problem.
Okay. Let me ask you this: How has the Ferguson situation impacted your lives as young people and students? Anybody want to start talking about that? Because there seemed to be a lot of young people involved with that movement.
Yeah, there were many protests held by NYU students, and a lot of my friends partook in the different protests that were being held in New York. Personally, it was clearly a very emotional situation, but I wanted to see like everything the way it happened, like in an objective viewpoint, and I wanted to get all the details instead of just getting people's like emotional, viewpoint of the scenario, because that's often very skewed. Because people, when they're very emotional, they speak out of passion, and it might not always be correct, or it may be a little bit tweaked to or towards their biases. So for me, it helped me look closely at like the legal system in America and like the different issues with it and how it related to the specific incident in Ferguson.
I personally was very emotional. Being Black and being a student, and also being a student activist, I think really came to a head for me when the Ferguson situation was really coming up and really being talked about and really being explored by more people than just Black people who had been experiencing, obviously for forever, that kind of discriminatory treatment by police officers. As for how it affected me in my student life, I found it very difficult at that point to really give myself to academia, to really focus on my academics. And that's where I got involved even more so in student activism and reaching out to communities who were getting involved on campus, who were fighting this kind of injustice, who were talking about it, who were holding vigils, holding sit-ins, holding protests, kind of responding to the treatment of Black people in this country.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think it's just really interesting because since we've been here, we've learned like the history of Watts and Rodney King, and you see these things happening over and over and over again, and it sort of goes back to what Sue Ann was saying about what are these societal things that are causing this to happen, not once, not twice, but throughout history, why are blacks overrepresented on the streets? Why do things like this keep happening even when we say we've learned from our past? And I think it's really about what societal structures are keeping the status quo instead of moving towards progress.
Mm-hmm. Now, what was the, you also had Eric Gardner right there in New York. What was the impact of that in New York among the community members, the activists?
I definitely think Eric Gardner was a scary situation just because of how close it happened with the verdict from Mike Brown. So it's just like we clearly know that this person was like Devin, I was very emotional about it. So in my opinion, we know that this young man was innocent, and then we get a verdict saying not guilty, and literally no less than a week later we get another verdict saying that not guilty for the police officers who literally like choked this guy out on camera. So it was just this situation where it's like I almost felt like it was a slap in the face to every like Black American and person of color in America, just proving that it's a systematic issue, and people clearly don't care, that they're taking an advantage of their power just because it happened back to back. So it's sort of just like, this is insane. Like, this can't be real.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody else want to say anything about that? What are your thoughts on how can we improve community police relations? What are some of the things that we can do to improve that, the relationship between the police and the community?
You know, Melvin, I spent a lot of time in our church working with the police over the years, and we've seen a lot of different changes. You can imagine going from Police Chief Gates and what it was like in those days to Willie Williams, who we thought really did a great job, at least in our communities, of bringing community-based policing to L.A. And then I think, honestly, taking a step back with Chief Parks, who didn't quite believe in community-based policing, and then, Bratton, the different groups coming and going, and how it changed each time. But I thought it was important to work with the police. I'm glad that we did. We tried to improve the relationships with the community. But at this point in my life, after so much time, I'm really wondering if this policing system itself is really a workable system. And it just seems to me we have, as Rebecca said, even for me, seeing the pictures in Watts in the museum right now, they have pictures of the Watts riots, the Watts uprisings, they're called, and stopping to see where the civil unrest, the epicenter, and remembering all that happened with Rodney King. And to see here it is again and again and again, and there is no change. And here we are in 2015 seeing these events happen almost staccato. And it just seems to me that we've bought into this system of what police really are. And it's time for us to start thinking about peacekeepers instead of police officers, and to have a whole different model. Mm-hmm. I would really challenge America to look at policing in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Any ideas on what we could do to improve that?
Yeah, I think that we're the police to represent a force in society that's, you know, based out of a community, that's governed by the community that it proposes to run and, you know, hold boundaries over. I think if the police were set up in such a way that they did service, that they did reach out, that they did kind of ground themselves in the communities that they were policing, I think it would be a very different story. But as it stands now, what I'm mostly seeing is police officers who are not from the communities that they're coming out of. They don't really know anything about the communities that they're policing, that they're imposing on, mm-hmm. And they're really just, you know, outsiders upholding kind of a standard that isn't one that exists in the communities that they're forcing it upon. So I think, like Brian was saying, if we had a system that kind of had a focus that was different than what the police have shown themselves to be focused on, that would be something that would do well for the communities and not, you know, have these horrible outcomes that we've seen over and over and over again throughout history.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any more comments on that? Police community relation? Well, let me ask this question then. What questions would you like to ask about Los Angeles, downtown, Skidrow Studios? What questions would you like to ask?
It was actually on my mind. I was wondering, are there any other places like the Skid Row in this area, or any other, communities where the homeless kind of gather together, like we've seen here?
Two other areas. One is Hollywood, up in the Hollywood areas, because a lot of young non-African American and mostly non-Hispanics, runaways that come from other parts of the country, you don't see them in Skid Row. They usually congregate in the Hollywood area. And then the other area that we see developing, because we talk about it all the time, is the MacArthur Park area. I don't know if you went through there, but the tents are beginning to develop in that area also. Mm-hmm. But one of the reasons Skid Row is because they call that the recovery zone, because you got so many service providers, the big missions and the substance abuse programs that's in that area. And most of the people that get out of prison or economic, they lost their house or their jobs, they usually end up on Skid Row for a while. Mm-hmm.
And of course, the interesting thing, isn't it, Melvin, that what we saw every time there was the criminalization of the homeless by the police and by the city powers, the powers that be, to kind of disperse them from downtown, we started to see the diaspora all over the city. And it's come to a point today that you can almost look under any freeway underpass and find that there's going to be 3 or 4 tents in that area. And it's just scattered throughout the city now. We can talk about 25 or 30,000 homeless people being downtown now, but there's another equal amount or more or double that amount all around. Another area that I think we also see a lot of homeless is along the beach communities from Santa Monica on down.
Venice.
And Venice Beach.
Up in that area. Mm-hmm. Did you want to say anything there? Did you have any more questions that you would like to ask about downtown Los Angeles?
Yeah, my question is, has there ever been any specific, government enforced type of situation to... Had there been any government enforced rules or regulations to help assist the homelessness issue on Skid Row?
Yeah, and that's one of the paradox about Skid Row, is that the more money you put into it, the more it creates a problem, because it creates a bureaucracy. See, it creates a situation where people's livelihoods is dependent upon the misery of the people laying in the streets. So you can't expect these people to put themselves out of work. It's almost like the prison industrial complex, and like what President Eisenhower was talking about at one time, the military industrial complex. And see, in the Skid Row area have become that. It have become the homeless industrial complex. And to compound the problem is that you got the major segments down there which are really fighting against each other. You got the activist community, the business community, the service providers, and the one with the least amount of voices is the homeless, the one laying in the streets. Yeah. So I think it's going to take young people to make a dent in this, because you can look at the situation, our leadership, the Republicans and the Democrats, and a bad example for the young people in this country when you see what's happening now with not only they don't respect the president, but they don't respect the presidency. See, and I think that's a big problem, and I think it's going to take the young people to speak out on that. See, because you guys are getting ready to inherit what they're developing now in this country. Yeah. Any more comments and thoughts on? Yes.
So I have a question. Has Skid Row done any kind of statistical research on what are the main reasons that these homeless people become homeless?
Yeah, they've just done a few studies. The thing that keep most of the studies is that they had the night that we had Pastor Murray, you came on the show. They had a big town hall meeting that was put up by the business community at the LA Theater Center, and the activists came and disrupted that. Rightly so, because hey, it was just all of the business, the rich people, and et cetera, like that, and then we just had a town hall meeting with the activist community, Skidrow town hall meeting that was put on by the activist community that wasn't supported by the business. See, and that's the main element. You know, they've had this concept of gentrification, and I'm going to ask you about that too, what's happening in New York in relationship to that. And so people are fighting for space, and that Skid Row area is the downtown area now is a very valuable space. So we've had a few efforts. And now we've put forth our solutions to the problem. And we started talking about this almost 5 years ago. We thought that the homeless problem should be, first of all, the homeless veteran problem. And then you get the United States of America to finance a think tank to come up with a solution, because most of these homeless veterans have been traumatized by wars caused by the United States. And the biggest budget that you have is the military budget. So they could finance a think tank to come up with an answer and then roll out that solution for the rest of the homeless population. That was the long-range plan. We thought that the short-range plans was something that the interfaith community had to take the leadership. And that means start buying up some of this empty city property that they can get at a real cheap rate and begin to bring people out of the Skid Row area into the churches, into the synagogues, into the community organizations, et cetera, like that. And so that's where we're at now. We're at a standstill in relationship to that. What is the gentrification situation in New York? How is that situation?
Yeah, so I'm a born and raised Brooklynite. I grew up in New York. I grew up in Bed-Stuy, and when I was 13, I moved to Crown Heights. So my borough is definitely experiencing gentrification, and specifically the neighborhoods that I grew up in. I think that it's a process that has happened very quickly. So I've almost seen gentrification, like I've seen the gentrification of my borough happen within like 2 to 3 years. So it's definitely a scary process when you see the place that you grew up in and the place that you have all these childhood memories in basically be sold over to people who don't care about the culture of the neighborhood. And you see so many people being displaced. And it's happening all throughout the city. It's happening in Bed-Stuy. It's happening in Crown Heights. It happened in the Lower East Side. It happened in Chinatown. So it's definitely like this really rampant thing happening in New York. And absolutely no one is trying to stop the problem, because developers and universities like Columbia and NYU are benefiting so much financially. So it's definitely like a problem and something I've experienced firsthand.
How about up in Harlem? What's happening in Harlem?
So we're seeing Columbia spread into Harlem. They have the Morningside Park, I think it is, where they're developing a brand new building in that section of Harlem. So they say that they're creating partnerships with the people of Harlem to ensure that their presence doesn't displace anyone. But I think it's very similar to what we're seeing in California, where USC is spreading out so much, and they're saying that we're creating partnerships and we're doing this and we're doing that. But when you start digging and when you start critically thinking about it, they're not doing anything at all. So the situation in Harlem is actually worse than Brooklyn. Like, it's like Harlem is just like, you can't, like they have, in Harlem, there was a Pathmark there that was a big staple in the community for a very long time, 24 hours, so people always have access to food, and that also means that they're always employing taking people from the community, but it's recently been sold to developers. So now they're knocking down the Pathmark and they're going to build luxury condos in Harlem. So if you just think about like the history of Harlem, the fact that for over a century it was this place where African Americans experienced like a certain level of success, and now all that cultural history is being displaced by developers who want to build luxury condos. Nothing else, not student centers, nothing else but luxury condos and the expansion of Columbia. And Pathmark is just like one example. So if you can think about Pathmark happening like 10 times over in Harlem, that's definitely what you're seeing right now.
Okay, that's beautiful. Let me ask this question. What kind of talk show do you think would appeal to young people? Especially young people, they always have these little gadgets in their hands where they can really communicate.
Well, I personally listen to This American Life, and
what is it?
It's just basically a show that like talks about. They just talk about a lot of topics. Some of their recent topics have focused on how cops see things differently, and so that was when aftermath of Ferguson and Eric Garner, they were just talking about how cops may see things differently than what we see. So for the Eric Garner case, a cop. They asked a cop to see it and analyze it, and the cop just kept siding with the police and about how Eric Garner kept moving, kept like agitating, like kept moving, and so the cop believed that the cop in the Eric Garner video was doing the correct thing, and so like that's the type of podcast I listen to, but I don't really know a lot of other people who listen to podcasts, so yeah.
Okay, what any other comments? The young people,
I think it's hard because I think we're so integrated with the video and video interface and all of this that to find podcasts that can really grab our attention for an extended period of time is something that is difficult because we want things fast and now and, as easy access as possible. And I personally don't listen to a ton of podcasts. And thinking about this question right now, I'm not sure why that is. I think it's mostly just because with the time that I could be listening to the podcast, I could think of the, other things, the list of other things that I could be doing. So I think it's more about how can you make it accessible and something that students or young people can do like on the go while they're multitasking, because that's like what's always on our mind.
Okay. Yeah, we're winding down. So Pastor Brian, can you take about a minute and give us some final comments?
Well, I'm again just always so impressed and so pleased to be with, I said young, creative, energized men and women, and I wasn't lying, was I? Just exciting to be with people and to hear these ideas.
Yeah, great idea.
And I guess they're the ones that are going to have to come up with the kind of podcast. I would love to have what you were talking about tonight from NYU be available to other students to just to have it be out there and to think about. So maybe that's another thought in your return to New York. How do you get these kinds of ideas that are generated here into other fellow students' minds and thoughts? It was the same thing we felt we ran into with the homelessness issues, that there were always these experts ready to tell us you should do this, having meetings and plans. And yet when it came down to it, I remember sitting at a table with a group of homeless people for about half an hour as we brainstormed, and I was just at awe. I was at the feet of the masters because they know what to do. They understand what to do. So why don't we listen to them, and why not listen to these students?
Okay, thank you, Pastor Brian. Now I would like to extend a special thanks to Teresa Thomas and Irene Cruz of Veteran Advocacy Connection, Pastor Brian of New City Parish, and students from New York University, NYU, and my co-host, Earlene Anthony. Please listen to past shows of the Coomround Report by Googling in Coomround Report. Thank you for tuning in to the Coomround Report. From your host, Melvin Ishmael Johnson, may the peace and blessings of the life-giving creative spirit be upon you and upon your family. I leave you with Beautiful Woman by Chief Yellow Mustard.